Right, let's take it to this conversation now. A TikTok influencer in KwaZulu-Natal was kidnapped and assaulted. A chilling reminder that social media isn't always just about having fun and followers. As police investigate, questions around digital safety, personal responsibility and tech platform accountability have come to the fore. How can users, especially young ones, stay safe in a world where digital exposure can have very real consequences? Jan, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Now, what are the biggest mistakes influencers and everyday users are making that potentially put their safety at risk?
Good afternoon. So a couple of things. Probably the biggest one is giving any kind of indication of your location. And it might seem easy enough to obfuscate that, but for someone who's really determined to find you, there's actually TikTok influencers who do this, who with very little information from a photograph, looking at the background or of a photo or of a video, are able to determine pretty accurately where you are. And so giving any kind of indication of where your home is or where you are at that very moment is incredibly risky.
So it almost limits the amount of information that you can put out there if you want to be absolutely safe, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And while I understand that there's plenty of influencers who do things like restaurant reviews or something like that, and there's other things to take into consideration here, but if you can shoot that content like a week in advance and then release it when you're no longer there. So if you're on vacation and you want to make content about your vacation, then only release that content when you're back or when you're no longer at that location. And that serves two functions. So firstly, if a criminal knows you're not home and they know what your home address is, then that makes your home a target. And then the second thing it does, obviously, is if someone's trying to get to you and you only release the content a week later or after you're back, then if they try and go to the location where you were filming from, they won't find you there. And so the other thing that one needs to be careful about is in-person meetups, but that's always been the case with the internet. And so depending on what kind of influence you are or what kind of content you're doing, or if you've received a recent threat, you might have to be just extra careful about announcing that you're going to be at a specific time, at a specific place to meet up with fans or whatever the case might be.
Jan, when we talk about regular criminals, we sort of have some idea of the telltale signs, or certainly what they might be looking out for. So if you walk out of a bank and you have a huge bag of money, then it's likely that they're going to be following you. Now, let's talk about some of these individuals that are tracking people on TikTok or any other social media. Are there specific things that they're looking out for? Is it purely based on chance?
Yeah, I'm honestly outside of my depth, so I don't know exactly what they're looking for. What we've seen with just before, extremely visual social media like TikTok, just in the age of Twitter, there were already warnings. Be very careful about exactly how much you share on Twitter, because if you go, hey, I'm going on vacation in a week's time, or whatever the case might be, that even gives somebody who's looking to rob you an advance warning to actually plan the crime. And so that's one example, and that's from 10 years ago already. With TikTok and other visual mediums, whether it's Instagram or anything else, or even posting photos to Twitter or posting YouTube videos, it just takes up the safety requirements a little bit higher. And so the types of criminals looking for people to target will range from anything from a highly sophisticated and technical criminal who might be looking for lucrative house robberies to someone who just has a mental illness and has a fixation on a particular creator. That happens too.
So Jan, here's a situation. One of the things that you're able to do on on most standard phones is put up the location services. So at any given point, you or anybody else who's tracking you, if you will, would know exactly where you are. So it's very, very important when your children are up and about because you know exactly where they are. But location services potentially could lead you into trouble. What are some of the other things that we need to know as consumers or as social media users that can protect us or, in fact, lead us into trouble?
Yeah, that's a great point and something I wanted to mention, so thank you for bringing it back up. So something that can happen that is usually on by default in a smartphone is attaching a location to a photo. Now, most social media platforms have gotten better at this and either give you a warning or strip that metadata out of the photo before sharing it. But yes, that's something to be extra careful about is attaching having geolocation data attached to a photo and then sharing that photo over a platform that keeps that metadata intact. So, whether that's sharing an unedited or HD photo over an instant messaging service like WhatsApp or Telegram, or if you post to social media and it doesn't strip that, it's called EXIF data, EXIF data, that's still attached to the photo. And so it's not even just the being careful about how much you share about with regards to what's in your background, but also knowing what kind of metadata is attached to those photos. So turn off the location services on photos or take out the location data before sharing the photo. With regards to keeping yourself safe, I think a simple rule of thumb is make sure if you're an influencer, I would think twice about sharing or taking photos at your home and sharing those online, because it can be very easy to determine where a place is from what you might think is an innocuous photograph. And then other things that I think people should consider carefully is if they've got children, about how much they share about their personal lives there and photographs of their children and that sort of thing. That can also be potentially risky. And so, but the risk profile is going to be different for every person. And there's some people I've spoken to who are quite comfortable with being more intimate and sharing more intimate details about their lives and, showing photos of their children, and other people who have taken a very hardline stance and saying that no, they won't do that at all. And that's for people to determine for themselves, really. It's difficult to prescribe.
Jan, my final question: if we were to use a jungle as an analogy or metaphor, just how dangerous or risky is the World Wide Web, using that metaphor? Just in case, because I think a lot of people assume that it's a relatively safe space.
Yeah, no, and it really isn't. So yeah, a jungle is a good metaphor or a game reserve. And so when you enter a game reserve in South Africa, and like the Kruger National Park, they will tell you don't get out of your car. And tourists still do that every year. They get out of the car. Some of them come off scot-free, and some of them get attacked by wild animals. And you, to really belabor this metaphor, you might get attacked by animals that seem really safe, but aren't really safe, like an elephant. People don't think of elephants as extremely dangerous. They think of lions as extremely dangerous, but an elephant can be much more dangerous than a lion in the right circumstances. So, just if the jungle analogy works for you, then remember those things. When people offer warnings, stick to those warnings and exercise extreme caution, because you're entering an area where there's wild animals.
Jan Vermeulen, great speaking to you, my broadband editor and social media expert. And remember, social media, it's a jungle out there.